Hello, welcome. Right, today I'm working on a gin brand. I'm sort of taking it back to my roots. I usually do sort of brand design for drinks brands. I've done that for a number of years, and yeah, it's something that I know quite well. So I wanted to do something quick today, as it's a Saturday. I wanted to do something that was nice and quick and a bit high end. So yeah, today is we're going through this one, which is a high-end gin brand called Native. It's a small batch gin, and the idea is that it's using distinctive botanicals that are found growing native to the UK. And the idea, I suppose, is that the gin is always made from something that is local, found locally. So this particular gin, it features rosemary, elderflower and nettle. It's so the logo, what I want it to be elegant, I want it to be a luxury brand and small batch. So I'll just get started on this with trying to get comments up. So as usual, if you've got any comments, just leave them in the comments box and I'll try and answer any questions. If you've got any suggestions, feel free just to give me a shout. Just turn that down. Right, so I've made some drawings. I've done a little bit of sketching, nothing too kind of extensive on it, because I think I've got a decent idea. I might start off just with something almost signature like, but I think that might not work. I just want to try it out just to see. Or should I? Nah, you know what? I'm going to go straight in with the standard look. What I'm going for. So this is what I'm doing. You can kind of see that there. So I'm going to be going for this style. And yeah, I'm not going to bother with the signature style because I think that was probably going to be a little bit wrong for this. I want it to be more in the region of this kind of Liberty sort of style, and I sort of like this kind of look for it. I'm not sure if we'll go down that route. It all depends on what on how it turns out. So what I'm wanting for this is some foil and some embossing. So that's kind of where it's going to lead to. It's going to be then applied to like I think these are called herbalist bottles. I could be wrong. But yeah, the label will sort of fit along that bottle, kind of in that area. And I think it's probably going to go on like a forest green colour plan, or on something sort of off-white, creamy. But we're not going to get there just yet. I might come back and do something another time, actually making up the label itself and just see how that kind of turns out. So that's enough chit chat. I'm gonna start off, as I always start off, with some grids, and then I'm going to go through each letter. So every letter in Native is different. They've got some angles, we've got some straights and some horizontals. So just going to write out the word Native up here. That just helps me keep on track with what it's actually called and not spell it wrong. So I'll drop in some guides. Make them a colour, and then also put these onto a new layer. So I like to have a guides layer and then set the guides under the artwork, because what it sometimes does is just kind of inhibits what everything looks like. It can throw you off a bit. So make sure that we're on the right layer. So the everything's going to be uppercase. So all I've done with this is set out 2 guidelines, top and bottom, just cap height and baseline. I know that there's not going to be anything coming underneath and nothing coming above either, so we don't need to worry about any ascenders or descenders. Right, so let's start on the end. I think with this font I want it to be fairly angular. I quite like this into it, but maybe accentuate that a bit. I'm not sure how fat I want the strokes just yet. Just going to make this black so I know what I'm working with. I think I want the top of the end to extend a little as well. Maybe you can dip instead of extend, or go halfway. It might be more optically balanced if we go halfway. So I think I need to introduce those curves in fairly early on. Otherwise it's just gonna look a bit too weird and not right in terms of those angles. I wonder if does that work? Yeah, I think that works, quite like that. So just duplicate that up and bring it over here. We might need to just bring a little curve into that to make it all balance again. I think it looks kind of heavy, or maybe we just need to move this and that there. Okay. So using this part at the end, the the stem of the N. Just make an A. Might use that as well. Can we use that? Nah, that's not. So with this one, I'm just going to use the skew tool, or shear tool even. I always call it skew. Use the shear tool and then bring that into where probably where an A is going to go, and then we'll refine it afterwards. I'm going to use that just so I've got that same or a similar top. Does that look a little too wide, maybe? Possibly there. Don't want that to. I'm using the wrong thing here. Right. There we are. I think there's a danger of this looking a little bit too oriental. I might have to scale that. Scale these curves back a bit. But we'll carry on. We'll just keep going and see how it all works together once it's tweaked. So obviously we've got to have some kind of a starting point, and then just keep coming back and seeing where things are landing. So this is T. So I wonder if we can get the curve into the T. Does it need to be both sides? I was wondering whether the I should come under the T. Quite like the thought of that continuing. Yeah, that might be quite nice. So because we've got the A, we can use this as the B. You literally just spin it around. Group that. It's looking really too stylized, I think. We're going to need to pull that back. I've been doing this a lot to the middle section of E's and F's. Quite like how it balances an E. Oh, this one's not quite working for me, I don't think. Yeah, it's far too much. Far too much. Right, let's move that off. And I'm going to start just pulling it back. I'm just going to use this as a guide, this circle. So you've possibly seen me use this before, and basically it's just a way that you can kind of gauge the width of anything in any orientation, because of it being a perfect circle. So with this, I want it to start off narrow and get fat, but in like the center, I want it to be essentially the same width as the center of the N. I need to try and remember not to add too much of that curve, because I think it's that that's making it look a bit too stylized, isn't it? I'm going to leave the I outside on this version just to try it out. Once again, we'll just use the A for the V. Sometimes you do need to tweak it just a little because you're missing the crossbar on the A. Sometimes it throws it a little bit off balance when you remove it for the V, so you need to do just a little bit of tweaking. The E is so stylized, don't need that. So let's use that I and make the stem of that. I think the E can probably be much narrower and a little less. I'll leave that as it is. In fact, I'll get rid of that and use the top. So this E just sort of swings up a little, which I think we'll keep, but I will put just a slight curve into it. And we'll get rid of this low contrast or high contrast even, just so it mimics the T more. So I'm just dropping a line in there as a guide, just to bring the E into line, really. I suppose we could have just used the top of that T, but I've done it now, so it doesn't matter. I'm just going to flip this, reflect it horizontally. Place that on the bottom. Whenever you place anything, you just got to make sure that all the nodes are lining up again, because otherwise you'll end up with like just stray steps in shapes when you link them together, which you don't really want. So we'll use this one as well for the center bar. I think we'll probably come in further on these. So you can see the clear difference there. This is quite sort of oriental styled, as though it's been drawn with a chisel brush. And this has got a similar kind of characteristic to it, but far more tamed back. I think what I'll do is I'll make just another version of this, so we've got something else to go back to. It's always good to have a version. I'm going to group these. And then I think what I'll do is I'll just make it smaller so I can see what I'm working with. Get rid of that panel there. And then because it's a high-end brand, you tend to see logos and texts being quite spaced out. I think when something it's got a high level of tracking on it, it tends to look a little bit more high-end, a little bit more more expensive, rather than when something's bunched up and sort of really grouped together. I'm sure there's some theory behind that, or psychology behind it. So what I want to do with this is bring a little bit of balance to it. I think what we need to do is just give that a slight curve. And this one I think is needing to have the same treatment to it. So I've added an extra section onto there because it kind of needs that shift over to one side. It might be a bit too much. Can't quite see where the balance should be on that. Should that come out there as well? Let's try that. yeah, that needed just a little bit of a kick just there. Yeah, that looks pretty cool. I think there's still work to be done. I'm not sure about the eye being so bottom heavy. Maybe this needs a little curve in it as well. Just an indication of movement changes the shape's dynamic quite dramatically. Yeah, I think the straight is better. So I think the T's looking a little too much. Let's bring that in. Right. Use a guide again. I'm sort of reluctant to use the eye, I think. Although it might work. Yeah, let's just use the eye. Cool. So what I've just thought is that I might try everything a little bit more mono-lined. I don't really mean mono-lined, I meant all the same kind of width, so there's no thick and thin to any of the letters. Oh, I did that the wrong way around then. Somehow that one looks different to that one. Strange. That's too thin now, that piece. Just bring that in. I think we can probably... Ooh, how about just add a little bit of interest? Almost forgot to make a V instead of an A. That would have been silly, wouldn't it? This part of the N looks a bit too thick in comparison to this part. Ever so slightly, I think, but that's probably because I've just made too much out of that curve. The wind outside is crazy today. Not sure if you can hear it on the mic. The bottom of the A, is that too thick? Possibly is. Let's bring it in on both. Potentially too thick on the bottom and too thin on the top. This needs to be thicker as well. And I'm definitely missing some curves in this. This needs a little movement just to add some more white space in there. Let's try it with the bottom one as well, just to be equal. Yeah, getting there. Right, I'm just going to move this onto a new artboard and make it a bit more spaced out. In fact, what I'll do is I'll group everything together. So I've done that just by using the Pathfinder tool. Rather than using the shape builder tool, it's a little bit easier sometimes, and then you just need to take out all these extra nodes that it randomly keeps in, annoyingly. I think there is another way to do this without having to go too much on this, possibly using that pencil tool or something, but I'll stick with what I know. Ooh, that looks a bit odd. Right, so let's give this some space. Like all high-end brands have. Just some high tracking. The V's a little too light now, I think. Pull those out. Yeah. So this is all done on sort of the idea of the mass of space that's there. So the mass should be kind of similar in every gap. So because we've got some T's in there and a couple of A's and V's, your mass in there looks slightly different. You don't want it to be perfectly spaced out, like from end to end like this, because it'd just look odd. So you see there that the physical spacing between each letter is completely different from the N to the A, and then the T, A to the T. So everything should be done optically rather than perfectly. And obviously this one should be similar to the I and V because the N is similar to the, or the I is similar to the stem of the N. So you kind of can use that as a guide there, and same with the V and the E. But for the I and the T, it shouldn't be as, sorry, yeah, it should be a little bit closer. So I'm not as close as I should be on that one. Or maybe I'm just too close on the A and T. It sometimes helps to zoom out and then squint as well, because you get a better idea of how everything fits together. I think the mass on the E knocks it out, so that needs to come in a bit more. Is that right? Yeah. Cool. I'm just going to try this on a white background just to be sure that it looks like it should. Sometimes it'll look odd in negative. Yeah, I think it looks better actually in white. So this would be, or I'm sort of anticipating this being like a gold colour or a gold foil. On a green. Yeah, that looks pretty nice actually. It's potentially just a little bit too fat, so I'm kind of tempted just to scale that back a little bit. There's a couple of ways you can do this, but I think because it's got some sharp edges in there, it might mess some stuff up, but let's try it. I mean, technically what we should be doing is sort of scaling it back properly and doing it right, but just to be quick, what I'm going to do is I'm going to go to Effect and then Offset Path and give it a minus 0.5. So as you can see, that's kind of drawn it in a little bit. So let's try minus 2.5. Yeah, I think slightly thinner might be better. All right, let's give it another bash. Have I just? I'll tell you what. Because I've expanded everything, it makes it a little bit more difficult to scale stuff or move things, but what we can do is just add another node in. This is sort of a typographic technique where you open up the corners like that. You just need to make sure that you've got all your nodes sorted, otherwise you end up with voids. But what this allows you to do is grab nodes along a plane and then just move them. Without causing too much disruption to that corner. Because if that was just one node, you'd have to move that node up, and then that node and that node in. Whereas you've got an extra node to play with with this technique. It's sometimes helpful with stuff like airs, just because that should naturally sort of carry on. And you can get just a bit more control. I wonder if the air needs to come in. Does that look thinner than everything else? Yeah, it definitely needs to come in. Nudge the end in. I'm not going to nudge the middle of the end because it's already quite narrow. Yeah, taking that that extra bit of white out has definitely made it look a bit more elegant. Pull that in and the N as well, just to bring in that space a bit. Not sure about the A at the moment now. I should have kept that gold. About there, is it? No. There we are, gold. So this is a premium gin. So we use the premium gin, or is it small batch? Small batch premium gin. Is that too wordy? Small batch gin. What font? Quite like DM Sans at the moment. Might work for this. Again, just give it tons of space. Makes it look super high end. Yeah, that might not be right. What about Brother? Quite like Brother because it looks a little bit like Gil Sans, but with a slight difference to it. Gil Sans is obviously used loads. It's quite traditional, so you do see it often. So Brother's quite a nice one, just as an alternative, but still in that same realm. Yeah, I'm into that. It's quite elegant. I think that E needs to come in, does it? Don't have to tie myself up in knots with kerning. You can spend hours and hours looking at something and thinking, that's not quite right, and then you come back to it and you have to do it again. Not do it all again, obviously, but kern it again. Right, I think I fancy doing like a little bit of a something. Quite like the N on its own. I wonder if we can put that into almost like a seal or something like that. Right, let's see if we can get this to fit into the middle of that well. Totally did this the hard way, didn't I? I'm going to use the offset path again just to bring that inwards. I don't know, what, 2 mil? Yeah, that works. Does it work? 3 mil. I'm working quite small here. I don't usually work this tiny. Copy that, and then just gonna drop that onto here. Oh, I need to expand that. So if you want to type on a path and you've used the path offset or offset path tool, you need to expand it in order to then drop the text onto there. Right, it's too big, so let's go. Is it too big? Is it? Type on a path. Type on a path options. Let's go for center on that. Should bring it in. Yeah, that's cool. Just going to use this now to make sure that we've got the word native in the right area, and then bring everything else around to fit. So we can probably get rid of that bullet, just drop in a couple of spaces and then move this around. This is always just like a little sort of game of placement, really. Just gonna do a warp and then inflate. See what happens with this. I'll just go. Oh, I think that's gonna look odd, isn't it? Yeah. Make that around again. It's looking nice. It needs a bit of detail top and bottom there, I think, doesn't it? Wonder if we can just add in a line or two. I also think this needs a bit of weight, maybe regular. I think we've got lucky with where this has landed. Small batch and premium gin have fit really well, so that bullet point stops really well. Right. I'm gonna try that warp again with an inflate. So what I want this one to do is just go the opposite way, just go in like that. So this is just going to be a little bit of detail for up here. So what I'll do is, when I've expanded it, I'm going to get rid of this. I'm going to make it nice and straight. So if we go to object and expand appearance, and then with those, just get rid of that and that and that one. So I just wanted this to mimic the styling that we've got on the letters, and then just bring it in. make it smaller. And kind of use that as a little bit of style on there. Which I think that might work quite well. So I'm just going to add a bit more stroke width, stroke weight. Yeah, that's cool. So you can see how that's sort of gonna work on this style of bottle. Be quite nice to have it as like a neck emblem with this maybe over the top. Yeah, that'll work nice. I'll just make a copy of that just so I can come back to it when I need to. So there's a little bit of kerning issue on here that I'm not overly keen about. Yeah. Fixed. I think this is going to look nice on a cream as well. Go for like an off-white. Maybe what there. So we've come quite a long way from the Oriental style. I think we've definitely brought it back to more this Liberty kind of styling. I think it's still a little heavy. A little. I wonder if we could add some kind of sometimes it's quite nice to have a little bit of a curve underneath, although that might be a little bit Netflix. Let's see what happens with that. It might work, might not. Possibly not. I think you might lose that sort of detail that's in the strokes. In the strokes? Am I talking rubbish? You might lose the detail that's in the stems. That's what I'm talking about. Let's see anyway. We'll just do it. So otherwise, it's got no reference of it. Can't tell where the center is for this. I think it's there. Kind of lines up with both of those. Yeah, I think it looks right. Let me know if it doesn't. Wonder if we can do just an even smaller version of this. As like a favicon style. Annoys me that when you've used the tool to sort of curve the corners, you have to expand it in order to then come back and change it up. And we'll go there and then pull these out. That's annoying. So we've got two nodes there. There we are. What creates atmosphere? You mean the curve creates a bit of atmosphere? I think it does add an extra element of interest, doesn't it? What if we was to do it the other way? Wonder if that gives it any more interest. No, that's a bit weird, isn't it? Yeah, I suppose this kind of gives it a little bit of movement, a bit of depth. And I suppose when it's on a bottle label, that might sort of add another sort of dynamic to it, potentially. Although, does it need it? That's the thing, isn't it? Does it actually need that extra dynamic? I think that's working quite well, actually. Yeah, the more I look at this, the more I prefer the slight curve. Let's just going to put this onto a new a new artboard and see how we feel about it. Let's try it with the green ground. And gold. Oh, maybe cream. I quite like the cream actually. That'd probably look really cool as an embossed gloss cream foil, rather than going full beans on a gold. Although a gold would also look pretty awesome, and definitely high end. I think that might be it there. Just bring this down into the mix. And expand it as well. I love these colours together. It's a colour set that I seem to really be drawn towards. But I think this would work if we were sort of working on the like the elderflower and nettle kind of combo. You can see how that fits in. You've got kind of the off-white with the yellowy white on the elderflower, and that rich green from the rosemary and the nettles, and then gold because it's a high-end product. Maybe a little bit obvious, to be honest, but I think that's something that we can work out in making the label. Yeah, British Racing Green is always very posh. I think I'm kind of drawn to a green because it's yeah, it is that sort of classic British Racing Green, isn't it? The kind of thing that you'd see on a Land Rover Defender. Oh, that's a little bit more blue, isn't it? Let's try that. Oh, yes. Yeah, the teal's cool. Would you buy it if it was gin? That's the question. I'd like to hope so. I like to think so even. Let's overlay it, see what happens. Yeah, I think with a bit of work, with some nice nice shape and stuff like that added to that, I think, yeah, that'd catch my eye on a shelf. So we were aiming for elegant, luxury and small batch. I'm not sure if we've quite hit the elegant in this one, but I think we have gone for high-end, luxury and small batch. We could possibly work on the logo a little bit further to bring in the elegance, or maybe even just use the label in quite a nice way to bring through some elegance. Which typeface are you talking about? Is that the brother? I really like this typeface. Yeah, it's a classic. It's just a really, really good alternative to Gill Sans. And it comes in it's got a one that looks like it's printed as well, so it's got a bit of texture to it, which is quite cool for titles and headings. And I think it works quite well with this typeface that we've just made. Let's just see how this looks on a bottle. What I quite like to do is sort of have stuff in the tank, like so say for instance if this was a full bottle, you might end up doing a miniature, so you kind of expect a slightly smaller logo sometimes on a miniature, but done in sort of a bigger format, if that makes any sense. The small batch typeface, that's brother. So everything that's here on the side and here on the bottom, that's brother. And the native is something that I've just drawn up as a custom typeface now. Right, well, I think we'll leave it there. I've been going for a couple of hours now, so call it quits on that. Make sure that I save it. Did that last time, not save, stupidly. Right, next time I think I might try and make this into a label potentially, or at some point I'll make it into a bottle label, something that's got a little bit more kind of design about it. So thanks, Jane, I appreciate it. Thanks for joining in. Cool. Well, yeah, let's call it quits on that one. Yeah, until next time. I'll see you in the next one. Cheers.